Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The moment hit harder than any blast he'd faced in Kandahar. Nolan Briggs stared at the crayon drawing taped to the fridge. A child's sketch of Mommy, me, and Uncle Reed. Trina stood between them in the drawing, holding hands with both. Smiling. No, Daddy. He didn't move. Just stared at it. His 6-year-old niece, Autumn, had spent the weekend at their house. She'd begged to play with Trina's markers. "Can I draw your family?" she'd asked with innocent excitement. Nolan had smiled and nodded, thinking nothing of it. Now he saw what she saw, what she'd accidentally exposed. He didn't speak as Trina walked in from the hallway, tossing keys into the dish and unzipping her coat. "Hey, babe. Dinner or DoorDash?" she asked, not noticing the drawing at first. Nolan stepped aside. "This yours?" Trina glanced at it. Froze. Her body stiffened just enough for him to catch it. Trained eyes, always watching. "Oh," she said, forcing a small laugh. "Autumn's drawings are wild, huh? Why isn't Dad in the picture?" She probably forgot. "And Reed? Why is he holding your hand?" Trina hesitated, then smiled too widely. "She's 6, Nolan. Kids draw weird stuff. Don't overthink it." He nodded, slowly. "Right." But his hands clenched just slightly at his sides. A tiny shake in his breath. Controlled. Contained. Trina didn't notice. Or didn't care. She walked past him to the kitchen, humming. The betrayal didn't explode. It bled, slow, invisible, steady. In that moment, Nolan knew something was wrong. And not just the affair. Something deeper. Something bigger. The soldier in him didn't react with emotion. He responded with precision. He walked to the basement. Picked up a small box marked tools. Inside, a listening device, a pinhole camera, and a USB cloner. If Trina thought he was still the man she could lie to, she forgot who she married. But what else had she been hiding? "Wait, I need to tell you something important. Have you ever realized that you keep watching my videos but haven't subscribed yet? This video has reached this point, which means you're enjoying it. So why not subscribe? I have a big goal, 10,000 subscribers, and you can help me reach it. Think about it. If you don't subscribe now, you might miss my next big video. This is the moment. Hit that subscribe button now. Do it now. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss out. I know you'll do it. And when we hit 5,000 subscribers, I have a special surprise for you. Now let's continue story. 3 days later, Nolan sat in his truck across from Mercer and Lowell Legal Group. Engine off, eyes scanning behind polarized lenses. He watched as Reed Mercer exited the building, laughing into his phone, crisp suit sharp in the morning sun. Arrogance on full display. Nolan didn't move, didn't flinch. Inside the truck, his tablet showed a mirrored backup of Trina's phone. He cloned it quietly the night after the drawing. Text messages lit up the screen. "Trina, he's been so quiet lately. Think he suspects." Reed, "Nah, he's clueless. Probably just depressed again." "Trina, let's just get through the gala. After that, we'll figure it out." The casual cruelty in her words didn't sting. Not anymore. They ignited something colder. He zoomed in on a photo Trina had sent, her in Mercer's office, legs on his desk, sipping from a whiskey glass. The timestamp matched a day she told Nolan she was volunteering at the shelter. His finger hovered over the screen, then tapped save. He made notes, patterns, names, burner numbers. Next, he drove to his buddy Seth's garage. Seth was ex-NSA, now working private cyber contracts. Inside, the lights flickered. The hum of quiet servers buzzed around them. "You sure you want to go this route?" Seth asked. Nolan placed a flash drive on the table. "Need everything decrypted and mirrored. No leaks." Seth looked at the contents. "This is surveillance on your wife?" "Not just her." Nolan explained what he'd seen: texts, money transfers, patterns. There was more to this than cheating. Reed's name appeared on business accounts Trina had no business being attached to. Donations. Hidden shells. Government names. "This isn't just personal, man," Seth muttered. "This is criminal-level laundering." "I know," Nolan replied. Calm. Steady. "I'm not here to yell. I'm here to end them." But how deep did this rot go? At home, Trina kissed his cheek like nothing was wrong. She smelled like lavender and wine. Her smile came too easy now. Nolan matched it. Warm eyes, steady voice. Long day? She asked. Yeah, he said. Long week. She rubbed his shoulder. Maybe we should plan that cabin trip we talked about? He nodded slowly. Yeah, let's. Inside, Nolan was scanning every word, every movement. She scrolled her phone while half watching a reality show. He noted her second device tucked into the throw pillow. A burner. Hidden, but sloppy. She wasn't scared. She was careless. That night, while she showered, he unlocked the burner with a cloned fingerprint patch. Messages confirmed everything: locations, financial drops, meetings labeled donor pitch. Not an affair. A side hustle built off stolen veteran identities. His name was listed in a contract. Someone had impersonated him to secure military funds for a fake nonprofit. A vet charity reads firm sponsored. She got out of the shower wrapped in a towel. You okay? She asked, seeing him in the dark. Nolan smiled. Yeah, just thinking. She leaned in. Still worried about work? Not anymore, he said. I've got a plan now. Her lips curled into a small smirk, not knowing it wasn't about his job. That night, Nolan lay beside her in silence, hearing her slow breaths as she drifted off. His eyes stayed open. She was a stranger now, but she'd made one mistake. She forgot who she married. And the next time she smiled in his face, it'd be for the cameras. The Mercer and Lowell charity dinner was held in a sleek glass-paneled venue overlooking downtown Raleigh. Crystal chandeliers, servers in tuxedos, violinists playing covers of pop songs, everything looked polished. Perfect. Fake. Nolan adjusted his cuffs in the mirror of the men's room before entering the ballroom. Black suit. Clean shave. The soldier was back, but this time, his enemy wasn't holding a rifle. It was holding a glass of wine. Trina had insisted he come. Said it would be good for his spirits. Reed Mercer spotted them from across the room and grinned like a game show host. Trina's fingers curled loosely around Nolan's arm as they approached. Nolan. Reed clasped his hand like they were old friends. Glad you made it, man. Nolan's grip tightened for just a beat longer than necessary. Wouldn't miss it. Trina smiled between them. Too bright. Too comfortable. Reed led them to a table full of local officials and donors. He bragged about veteran outreach programs, referencing Nolan's past like a prop in his performance. I tell you, guys like Nolan, they're the real heroes. We just try to help him transition. The table clapped politely. Nolan smiled back. Yeah, that transition's been enlightening. Trina gave him a quick glance, tight, unreadable. The servers brought wine. Reed toasted to restoring integrity to public service. Nolan sipped water. When the dessert came, Trina leaned toward Reed and whispered something. Nolan caught it. Next board meeting. He won't be there. His pulse didn't change, but his eyes tracked everything. Later, in the parking garage, Nolan watched from a distance as Trina and Reed shared a brief kiss inside her car, quick, discreet, rehearsed. She didn't even look guilty. From the shadows, Nolan spoke softly to himself. One step closer. But what exactly were they planning behind those boardroom doors? Nolan sat alone in his garage, the walls lined with memories, military plaques, photos of his unit, folded flags. But tonight, it all felt like part of another man's life. His laptop screen displayed Trina's phone logs. He watched in silence as messages rolled in from contacts labeled with initials, burner numbers, and code-named donors. He wasn't just betrayed. He was used. Her voice echoed in his head from earlier. He won't be there. She was planning to remove him. Legally, financially, maybe even frame him if needed. This wasn't just an affair. It was an erasure. He reached into a drawer and pulled out an old challenge coin, turned it between his fingers, then placed it down. Time for emotion was over. He opened a private chat window with Seth. Nolan. Need a trace on IP 47.22.118.19. Might be a contract server. Also, check if Trina Briggs is registered on any private boards or NGOs in DC. Minutes later, Seth replied. Seth, oh man. You're not gonna like this. Attached, a screenshot of a registered agent listing. Trina Briggs, Executive Consultant, Valor United Veterans Foundation. filed under a corporate umbrella tied to Reed Mercer's firm. Problem? That foundation didn't exist 6 months ago. It now had $2.3 million in federal funding. Nolan stared at the screen, controlled rage tightening his jaw. She used his service, his trauma, his name, to steal. He picked up his phone, called an old contact at the Office of Veterans Affairs. "Doug, it's Nolan. I need you to look into something." Quietly. There was a long pause on the other end. "You found something?" "I think I've got a fraud ring using disabled vets as their front. I want to burn it to the ground." Now it wasn't just revenge. It was justice. Sunday morning sunlight spilled through the kitchen windows. Trina hummed a light tune, flipping pancakes, barefoot in one of Nolan's old army shirts, like a scene from a magazine. He watched her from across the room, arms folded. Not a muscle moved on his face. She turned. "You're staring. You look good in that shirt," he said. She smiled and walked over, planting a kiss on his cheek. "Told you we'd find our rhythm again." Nolan kissed her back. Gently. A little too long. He needed her to believe this. Every fake smile. Every nod. Every "I'm okay" had to be real enough. Because tonight, she'd be meeting with Reed at The Mill, a closed restaurant they used as a front. He had the location from a voice memo she didn't know synced to the cloud. Later that night, parked in the shadows, Nolan watched through a long lens. Inside, Reed handed her a manila folder. She scanned it, nodded. They exchanged USBs like spies in a Cold War film. She laughed at something he said. Nolan zoomed in. Her eyes lit up in a way they hadn't with him in years. That look? That laugh. She never gave him that anymore. He clicked the shutter. Got everything. The next day, Trina texted him, "Lunch today? I miss you." He replied, "Would love that." She didn't know he'd already sent the USB copy to Doug, or that federal tracking had started on Valor United's bank account. She didn't know her perfect act had started to crack. She didn't know Nolan was weeks away from ripping her mask off, for good. She thought she were the mask. She didn't know he'd already taken his off. The night before the next board meeting, Nolan sat in the living room, TV on mute, pretending to scroll through a sports app. Trina sat opposite him with her legs tucked beneath her, typing furiously on her second phone, the one she always kept for work emergencies. She'd grown bolder, too comfortable. She didn't hide the smirks between texts now, didn't glance over her shoulder anymore. He watched her, quiet. The TV's glow cast flickers on the wall behind her, like shadows of someone else. Someone she used to be. "You sleeping in the guest room again tonight?" she asked, eyes still on her screen. "Thinking about it," he replied. She didn't press, didn't even look up. That told him everything. Nolan waited until she was asleep, then opened his laptop and checked the mirrored feed. Reed had sent Trina a document titled Board Strategy, Phase 2. Inside, a series of memos outlined their push to acquire a new veterans housing project. Government funded. 8 figures. Nolan recognized a signature on one of the forms. His. Forged. She'd used his military record to authenticate the bid. He leaned back in his chair, breathing slow. No outburst. No broken glass. Just silence. He saved the file and sent it to Doug at the VA. Subject, Phase 2. Her prints are all over it. Attached, a zip folder of documents. Timestamped. Verified. The silence wasn't weakness. It was war drums underwater. In the hallway, Trina turned in her sleep, mumbling something. He watched her from the doorway, her face peaceful, undisturbed. She thought she had him beat. Thought silence meant surrender. She didn't know silence was the sound of the storm forming. And when it broke, there'd be nothing left standing. The coffee shop sat tucked between a dry cleaner and an old pawn shop. Low-key, quiet, exactly how Nolan needed it. Across from him sat Mason Rudd, former squad mate, now security chief for a private defense firm. Bald, tattooed hands, eyes that had seen war and worse. "She used your record to validate fake outreach contracts?" Mason asked, scanning the folder Nolan slid across the table. "Twice," Nolan confirmed. "Third's coming next month if we don't stop it." Mason flipped a page. "She listed you as board advisor. Even added your Silver Star citation." Nolan sipped his black coffee. "She knows just enough about the system to make it look clean." Mason tapped the table. "Want me to go loud?" No, I want them to think they've won. He laid out the plan. Seth tracking every wire transfer, Doug opening a quiet fraud case at the VA, Mason pulling surveillance access to the nonprofit's headquarters. This ain't just about her anymore, is it? Mason asked. No, it's about everyone they've stepped on. Every name on that donor's list is a stolen story. Mason nodded. All right then. Full ghost protocol. Full ghost. They shook on it. Two veterans, no longer in uniform, but still fighting. Outside, Nolan watched a nearby billboard flash an ad for Valor United. Reed's face beamed on it. Trina's name was in small print beneath. They were already branding themselves as saviors, as heroes, and the public was buying it. Nolan turned away, pulling his hood up. This wasn't the time for headlines. That would come later, when the billboard collapsed under the weight of truth. One more signature, one more lie, and they'd bury themselves. Trina's routines had become a performance she didn't realize had an audience. She left for her meetings every Thursday afternoon at 3:45. Said she was consulting with a rehab center across town. But her car always ended up parked behind the mill, the shuttered restaurant where Valor United had staged private donor events. Nolan followed twice. Watched from a block away, camera rolling. Inside the house, he'd installed 3 new listening devices. One in the vent above the bedroom, one behind the hallway mirror, and one under her desk drawer. He made them sensitive enough to catch whisper-level conversation. That week, Trina returned home humming, set down her bag, and placed her keys on the granite counter. Nolan was already there, sipping tea. Calm. You good? She asked, peeling off her blazer. Great, he smiled. Got a lead on a new project. Oh? Something exciting. Could be. Might involve some restructuring. She laughed, not catching the weight in his voice. That night, Nolan played back the audio. Trina and Reed had discussed Phase 3. They'd already signed paperwork in Nolan's name to secure another $1.2 million grant from the state. She even practiced his signature, mocking his slow, left-handed scrawl. They laughed. He didn't blink. The next morning, Nolan dropped a sealed package at the door of a local journalist. Inside, copies of the forged grant files, Valor United's real donor records, and photos of meetings held under the table. He didn't include his name. Not yet. Back home, Trina curled up beside him on the couch, phone in hand. Thinking about rebranding the nonprofit soon, she said casually. Something more national. Nolan nodded. Go big or go home, right? She laughed again. But she was sitting on a house full of tripwires, and every room was wired to blow. The house was rigged, and she'd lit the fuse herself. Trina had started talking about therapy again. I really think you should go back, she said gently over dinner. You've been distant. Nolan nodded, picking at his plate. Maybe. You used to have nightmares. You don't even flinch anymore. That's not healing, Nolan. That's numb. He let her talk. Let her believe her guilt was working. But the truth was simpler. He'd gone silent because he wasn't hurting anymore. He was watching. The next morning, Nolan walked into the VA clinic and signed in under an alias. He wasn't here for help. He was here to meet Doug in the hallway near records. Doug slipped him a flash drive. Internal audit reports. The payments under Valor United are triggering red flags. You've got less than a month before someone higher up starts sniffing around. Good, Nolan replied. Let them come. At home, he stayed quiet. Started wearing the same 3 shirts. Ate less. Slept on the couch. Let Trina think she was winning. She left more openly now. Barely hid the burner phone. Left receipts in her bags. He found one. Dinner for 2 at a restaurant 3 hours from home. Dated the same night she said she was attending a virtual grief support webinar. Instead of confrontation, Nolan wrote it down. Logged the miles on the car. Matched timestamps to the bank withdrawals. He wasn't just collecting receipts. He was building a timeline. One solid enough to break careers. And Trina? She thought she'd broken him. She didn't know she was walking through a minefield. And the click of the trigger was already behind her. Nolan had always been the quiet guy in the friend circle. Steady. Reliable. The one who showed up early to help set up and left late to clean up. Now, most of them treated him like a ghost. At a small backyard barbecue, he noticed it. A sideways glance here. A pitted nod there. Trina's best friend, Jess, pulled him aside. Look, I don't know what's going on between you two, but she says you've been distant. Like, checked out. She's worried. Nolan looked down into his drink, swirling the ice. I'm good, he said. Just been processing a lot. Jess hesitated. She mentioned, you might need medication again. PTSD stuff. He looked at her. No flare of anger. Just cold clarity. So, that's what she's been saying? Jess shrugged. I'm not judging. But yeah, she's been carrying a lot. Reed's been helping her through it. The name landed like static in his ear. Reed? He asked casually. Jess nodded. They're close, you know that. Always been tight. Tight enough to forge documents together. Tight enough to use his military record as a financial stepping stone. He gave a short laugh. Guess I've been more out of it than I thought. She touched his arm. You're not alone, okay? You just gotta be honest. He smiled. Yeah, I will be. But that night, he deleted every shared friend from his socials. Changed passwords. Disconnected every camera Trina had ever seen in the house, and activated 3 new ones she hadn't. The isolation worked in his favor. They thought he was broken, unaware, passive. But when you're underestimated, you move freer, slower, sharper. And when the strike lands, they never see it coming. The Valor United Gala was a month away. It was being marketed as a historic milestone in veteran community partnerships. Red, white, and gold banners now hung around the city. Billboards featured Reed Mercer, hand on a vet's shoulder, with Trina smiling nearby as community director. Every time Nolan saw one, he took a picture. Not for memories, for evidence. The timeline needed to be airtight. At Seth's safe house, the data wall was growing. One screen played back silent footage of Reed and Trina at the mill. Another showed money transfers. The newest, a $250,000 donation from a defense contractor with ties to 3 fake shell companies, all routed through Valor United. They're getting arrogant, Seth muttered. This stuff isn't even buried that deep anymore. Because they think they're safe, Nolan said. And they think I'm done. Mason entered, dropping a flash drive. Security schematics for the gala venue. If you want to go public, that's your night. Nolan nodded. That's when they'll both be handed their awards. Cameras will be rolling. Crowd full of donors, press, city officials. He turned to the footage of Trina, adjusting her necklace while sipping from a champagne glass. That's when the masks come off. Seth tilted his head. You sure you want to be there in person? Nolan's eyes stayed locked on the screen. I want to watch them break. In real time. Later that night, back home, Trina was giddy, humming a tune in the bathroom. We'll be on stage together, she said through the door. Can you believe it? Nolan folded his suit jacket carefully. Hung it beside hers. I can, he said. You've earned it. She laughed, clueless. But beneath all that gold was the blood-red truth waiting to be revealed. And she was about to bleed for it. Friday evening, Trina hosted one of her ladies' wine nights. For women, 2 bottles deep, laughter bouncing off the living room walls like bad theater. Nolan sat outside on the porch, headphones in, pretending to scroll his phone. Inside, the house was wired. He listened through the live feed, Trina's voice floating through the mic hidden in the floor lamp. You have no idea how exhausting it is pretending to care. I swear, if I hear, thank you for your service, one more time, I'll scream. The others laughed. And Nolan? He's like a ghost. Won't even look me in the eye half the time. You think he knows? One asked. No. I could sleep with Reed in our bed and he wouldn't notice. The wine glasses clinked. I'm telling you, once this nonprofit expands, I'm done playing house. We'll have real money, DC connections. I won't need the camouflage anymore. Nolan didn't blink, didn't shift. Just tapped his phone twice, marking the timestamp. Later, when the guests were gone and the lights dimmed, Trina brushed past him like nothing had been said. She leaned down and kissed the top of his head. You're up late. Couldn't sleep, he said, without looking up. I'm heading to bed. Long day tomorrow. He waited until she was gone, then pulled out his tablet. Saved the recording. Her mask was cracking, not just in front of him, but in front of others. And that was perfect. Because soon, she'd have an audience she didn't choose. And every fake smile would finally cost her. It came on a Sunday afternoon, quiet, unassuming. Nolan was sitting in the garage reviewing donor lists when Seth's message popped up on screen. Big one. Just cleared. $500K. Offshore. Trina signed it. Code ID Red Wolf. Red Wolf was a military ops name Trina once heard Nolan mention. She used it as an alias to route funds through a Belize-based shell account. She hadn't just forged his name. She was stealing his language, his past, his battlefield. Nolan breathed through his nose, slow and calm. Every detail mattered now. He called Mason. They just moved $500,000. Time to make it real. Mason responded without hesitation. You want the state auditor's office brought in? No, not yet. We let them stack their crimes first. Every file, every document, let them get deeper. Then we pull the floor out from under them. That night, Trina cooked lasagna, set the table, lit candles. You've been so different lately, she said, pouring wine. It feels like the old you. He smiled. That's because I'm starting to feel like me again. She reached across the table, touched his hand. I want to believe we can make it work. Nolan looked into her eyes. Calm, unreadable. We can. We just need to be honest with each other. She smiled, convinced she still had him wrapped. After she fell asleep, Nolan took the house laptop she never used and searched for files marked Project Red Wolf. Found a zip folder. Inside, signed NDAs, fake employee IDs, contractor invoices, all tied to Valor United. He uploaded it all to a secure drive labeled Truth Drop. When the time came, this folder wouldn't just expose her. It would bury the empire they built. Monday morning, Nolan sat quietly in a diner off I-40, coffee steaming in front of him, a recorder in his coat pocket. Across the booth sat Carrie Whitman, Trina's coworker. Ex-best friend, now blacklisted from Valor United for compliance issues. She sipped her coffee, eyes darting. You didn't hear this from me, she said. But Reed and Trina? They've been coaching new hires to funnel checks through side accounts. Bonuses, incentives, it's all off books. Nolan leaned in. You ever sign anything? Yeah, once. I was dumb. They said it was just standard paperwork. Next thing I know, my name's attached to a consulting fee I never got paid for. Would you testify? She blinked. Hell no. Nolan slid a USB across the table. You won't have to. Just plug this into your office computer. It'll do the rest. She stared at it, hesitated. You think they'll go down for this? I don't think. I know. Back home, Nolan walked in to find Trina at her desk, typing away. She minimized the window quickly, smiling like nothing was off. You're home early. Stopped for lunch. Good, she said. Big week. The gala's going to be massive. Reed said the mayor might show. Nolan smiled. He should. You two have worked hard for this. She nodded, thrilled. It's going to be the night we've been working toward. Nolan stepped closer, brushing her hair behind her ear. It'll be a night no one forgets. She beamed, kissed him quickly, but as she turned, Nolan glanced at the screen she'd minimized. She forgot to fully close it. For a second, he saw it, an email draft titled, Post-Gala Exit Strategy. He memorized the address. They weren't just planning a night of glory. They were planning their escape. But they built their empire on stolen time. And Nolan had just pressed fast forward. The sun beat down hard in the old footage. Nolan watched it in his garage, eyes locked on the grainy screen. Helmet cam. Afghanistan, 2010. His unit was pinned down in a crumbling village, outnumbered, supplies gone. 3 men shot. 1 dead. He remembered the silence more than the chaos. One clip showed him dragging a wounded man through dust and glass, laying down fire without blinking. That day had taught him something. Emotion gets you killed. Precision gets you home. Now, he paused the video, still holding the dog tags of Staff Sergeant Ruiz, his closest brother in the field. Ruiz had died on that mission. Nolan had carried that loss for years. And now? His own wife had turned his scars into signatures. He tucked the tags away and opened the Truth Drop folder. Time to finish the recon phase. He emailed a copy of the shell accounts and donor links to Doug with the message. Need you to confirm these funds connect to active contracts. I'll handle the rest. He added a second attachment. Reed's call with a contractor discussing reducing payouts to disabled claimants to boost retention bonuses. It wasn't just fraud now. It was theft, from wounded vets. That night, Trina walked into the living room holding 2 glasses of red wine. To second chances? She asked. He raised his glass. To new beginnings. And as their glasses touched, Nolan's eyes didn't blink. He wasn't drinking to love. He was drinking to vengeance. The same focus that got him out of Kandahar would now bring down the enemy inside his home. Nolan sat across from Catherine Pellman, a sharp divorce attorney he'd met through a veterans legal network. She wore glasses, spoke like a scalpel, and didn't waste words. You said your wife forged your name on state and federal documents? Nolan slid a folder across her desk. Here's 3. Each tied to Valor United grant approvals, plus financial authorizations using my service record. She skimmed the pages. Forgery, wire fraud, misuse of federal identity protections. If this goes public, she's facing a minimum 5 to 10 years. I don't want jail yet, Nolan said. Not until after the gala. Catherine arched a brow. Why? Because I want everyone watching when it drops. She leaned back, intrigued. You want a public execution? Only metaphorically. She flipped through the documents again. And you're willing to stay silent until then? He nodded. But I want the divorce papers ready. The moment it breaks, she served. Lock up all shared assets. Shut the door before she can run. Catherine smiled faintly. That I can do. Before leaving, Nolan handed her one last sheet, a copy of the original prenup Trina had signed years ago, back when she thought marrying down meant financial security. It included a clause she forgot. If infidelity or fraudulent behavior is proven, all claims to shared marital assets are forfeited. Catherine whistled. She's going to lose everything. She never had anything, Nolan said. She just borrowed it. That night, Trina texted him while he was at the gym. Miss you. Home late. Donor dinner ran long, he replied. All good. Take your time. She had no idea she'd be coming home to a house that no longer belonged to her. The law was now his weapon, and it was loaded. At exactly 3:15 a.m., Nolan triggered the house alarm manually from his phone. The piercing screech echoed through the hallways. Trina shot out of bed, dazed. What the? Nolan burst from the guest room barefoot, phone in hand. I think someone's trying to break in. She panicked, grabbed her phone, keys, and ran straight out the front door without even checking on him. Nolan stood in the kitchen and watched through the window as she got into her car and sped down the street. She never once looked back. He disabled the alarm, exhaled. Test complete. The next morning, she returned pretending nothing had happened. You okay? She asked, sipping her smoothie. Last night was wild. He looked at her. Yeah, you bolted fast. I thought someone was in the house. I was freaking out. You didn't check on me. She laughed it off. I knew you'd be fine. You're trained for this stuff. He nodded slowly. Right. She kissed his cheek and went back to her emails. Nolan walked to his office and opened the surveillance playback. Every angle recorded. Her panic. Her escape. The speed at which she left the man she loved behind. Later that day, Doug confirmed it. The $500,000 transfer was being tracked. The money was connected to a fake property rehab project. The house was rigged. The fund trail exposed. The exit plan caught in draft. Now, her loyalty had failed the last test. And Nolan? He didn't need love. He needed leverage. And she just handed him the last piece. 2 weeks before the gala, Nolan made his first move. An anonymous envelope arrived at the office of the Raleigh Sentinel, the city's most respected independent newspaper. Inside, a USB drive, a burner phone number, and a sticky note that read, You'll want to verify line 17 in the state contract files. Start with Valor United. The story writes itself. The reporter who opened it, Jill Ramirez, had covered corruption stories for a decade. She knew a live wire when she touched one. That same evening, she texted the burner number. Jill, this is real. Nolan, more than real. You'll find forged veteran records, shell accounts, and donor laundering. All under the Valor United name. Jill, how deep? Nolan, governor's office might be connected. Depends how far you're willing to look. Nolan left it at that. No names. No threats. Just breadcrumbs. At home, Trina poured herself wine and turned on a streaming documentary about nonprofits and war crimes. The irony, Nolan said, sitting beside her. She laughed, not catching it. It's all exaggerated. Most nonprofits are clean. Sure they are. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You're finally loosening up again. I miss this. He wrapped an arm around her and smiled. So did I. The TV played in the background as Nolan glanced at her phone screen. A text from Reed. We're in the clear. Nobody's looking. Gala will be perfect. He memorized the timestamp. They thought they were invisible, untouchable. They didn't know the first strike had already landed. And when the story broke, it wouldn't just be news. It would be war. Carrie Whitman hadn't planned to betray Trina. But she'd been cut off, tossed aside, and left to carry legal risk for a scheme she never believed in. So when the reporters showed up asking questions, she didn't run. She sat down and talked. I don't have documents, Carrie said, but I've seen them. Reed forged a fake board approval. Trina notarized it under someone else's name. Joe Ramirez recorded everything. Would you testify? Carrie hesitated. Off the record, yes. On the record? I need protection. You might get it, but it's going to blow open. Meanwhile, Nolan had the footage. Carrie had agreed to wear a wire during one last friendly lunch with Trina. At the bistro, Trina sipped wine and gushed about DC expansion. You really think this nonprofit's gonna go national? Carrie asked, playing dumb. Trina smiled. It already is. The funding's locked. Reed's handling legal. I'm the face. All we need now is a clean gala. And what if someone leaks something? Trina scoffed. Then we bury it with cash. Or deny everything. I've watched Reed handle worse. Carrie tilted her head. Even with no one still around? Trina rolled her eyes. Please. He's a shell. He's broken. If he had any clue, we'd be in trouble. But he doesn't. Later that night, Nolan listened to the playback. He didn't blink. Just labeled the audio file, Final Nail, Confession.mp3, the arrogance. The overconfidence. The complete dismissal of him as a threat. It wasn't insulting. It was perfect. Because when people think you're powerless, they never brace for the hit. Nolan stood outside the gala venue the night before the event. Mason handed him the final USB drive. Everything's on there. Surveillance footage. Contracts. Financial trails. The whole op. Good, Nolan said. This is the one that burns the house down. He walked through the building empty now, but tomorrow it would be full of donors, politicians, and cameras. He studied the lighting, the exits, the media booth. Trina would be standing center stage, accepting an award for outstanding public service. Reed would introduce her. The irony was almost poetic. That night, back home, Trina lit candles, made steak, poured his favorite bourbon. I thought we should celebrate early, she said, sitting close to him. Tomorrow's going to change everything. It will, he agreed. She reached for his hand. You've been amazing lately. Whatever darkness was there, it feels like it's gone. He looked at her. It is. She smiled and kissed him. For a moment, Nolan allowed it. He let the lie live one more night. Because tomorrow, there would be no coming back. They danced in the kitchen. She laughed when he spun her. The playlist she used on their honeymoon played in the background. But as she kissed him again and whispered, I'm glad I never gave up on us, Nolan's face didn't move. He kissed her back, then pulled away slowly. You should get some rest, he said. Big day tomorrow. She nodded, her eyes soft. You'll be right beside me? I wouldn't miss it. He watched her walk upstairs. Quiet. Content. And then he turned back to the folder in his bag. Tomorrow wasn't about closure. It was about consequence. And by the time the lights came on, she'd know exactly who she'd been dancing with. The gala buzzed with camera flashes and polite applause. Waiters drifted between guests with trays of champagne. Beneath the glittering chandelier, Valor United's logo beamed from a massive screen. Trina stood near the stage in a fitted black dress, shaking hands with city officials. Her laugh was polished, her smile locked on like it was carved in marble. Reed hovered close, his tux crisp, eyes scanning the crowd like he was already elected to something. Nolan entered through the side corridor wearing a dark charcoal suit. Clean. Controlled. He didn't make a sound. He didn't need to. The USB with the compiled evidence was already in the hands of three key people: a lead investigative reporter, the state auditor's liaison, and a federal agent tied to the VA's fraud division. All had been instructed to wait until the final award presentation. He moved to the back of the ballroom, posted up near the camera crew. Silent. Watching. The crowd settled. A host stepped to the mic. Tonight, we honor two extraordinary individuals. Nolan's eyes narrowed. Reed stepped forward to a ripple of applause. It's been my life's mission to give back to those who've sacrificed the most. But tonight's spotlight belongs to someone who's been my rock, my partner, in the heart of Valor United. Trina Briggs. Trina walked onto the stage, eyes glistening. Applause thundered. She looked radiant, untouchable. She took the mic. Thank you. This isn't just for me. It's for every veteran who gave more than they got. And for every person who believed we could do better. Nolan checked his watch. 7:41 p.m. 3 minutes until detonation. He smiled faintly. And then the world would finally see what was buried under the glitter. At exactly 7:44 p.m., Jill Ramirez stepped outside the ballroom with her editor. She opened the sealed envelope that had been hand-delivered 30 minutes earlier. Inside, a photo of a man. ID, service record, 2 blood-spattered legal forms. His name was Anthony Voss, a disabled vet whose identity had been stolen, whose benefits had been drained by Valor United 6 months prior. But what Jill saw next made her stop breathing. Attached was a printed court deposition. Anthony Voss had committed suicide. The benefit denial paperwork? Signed by Trina Briggs. The photo? Taken by Nolan 2 years ago, during a PTSD support retreat. Voss had trusted him. Nolan had introduced him to Valor United, believing it was legit. The rage Jill felt wasn't professional. It was personal. Inside the ballroom, the screen glitched. Then it changed. What was supposed to be a pre-recorded thank you montage